I can do this. I can do this. I'll tell you what I mean. That's a weird start to the show, but that's okay. I'm good with that. Jess is already disgusted. Laura's thinking, oh no, this is going to be a doozy tonight. We actually have a very important conversation tonight. The conversation, there was a quote in the paper regarding this HIV testing week or day or moment or something. Is it the week? It's the free testing day it's tomorrow. That's why we're having my guest on tonight. And there was a quote in the paper that I thought was really provocative about the anxiety about HIV testing. And it brought me back to the day, when most of us, homo or heterosexual, had to take an HIV test. And a lot of us were like, okay. And that nerve-wrackiness still exists today, I guess, based on the quote that was offered. And so I thought it was a very interesting and important conversation to have, and so we're going to have our guest in to talk about that. The reason I'm going like this is that I was just trying to get myself pumped up because we're going to try not to go during this broadcast. That's a fake one, fake one. Because your host is a little bit battling here, under the weather. So let's all take a deep breath and let's see if we can get through this, baby. Let's start with the rundown. Camera 3. Yeah, so the field is set for most of our political races and the landscape is now pretty clear, although guess what? The road to the promised land on primary and then general election day is not easily traveled. We'll talk about that. Of course, then again, there's the mayor's race and a little follow-up on all of the theatrics from last night, no doubt. You've got a situation going on right now, election-wise, in the Commonwealth, and we have so many viewers in the Commonwealth that get short shrift sometimes here. This is a very, very complicated situation with the casinos and the like. This would, if I was the Ed Commissioner, I'd say, you know what, take your Ed reform and this was very funny. This was in the news during the time that I was on break here, but I just wanted to give the governor a little bit of attaboy. And it was supposed to be that. I guess they've got better irrigation than I thought they did as we go against Germany this afternoon. All right, let us go to the first item, Laura, on the rundown, and that is that the field is set. Here's a headline from the Providence Journal. Battle lines drawn in the assembly races. And here's the sub-headline. 16 of Rhode Island's 38 senators and 30 of 75 members of the House appear to have no opposition. I'm no mathematician, but that seems to me that almost half of each chamber is uncontested. And I just say this about that. It's no one's specific fault, right? It's not like you can go yell at anybody for not running for office. Like, people run for office or they don't run for office. But I always get a kick, weekdays, noon to 3 on WPRO radio, when I hear the people dialing in all the time talking about change. We need change. We need a two-party system. We need change. The groundswell for change is not apparent. And the Republican Party is clearly still anemic. It is a shame that so many representatives get a free ride, so many senators also get a free ride to November and into the next session, when so many of them just don't deserve it. I don't know how to fix it. Talk to me on your state of mind and tell me how you think we can fix it. Meanwhile, one of the interesting ditties in the field set category is this gentleman who is becoming hard to follow. We've had Ernie Almonte on this broadcast on X number of occasions. He is a good guy. He's the former the Auditor General, not Inspector General, but Auditor General, where he did a lot of accounting stuff for the local communities, towns, cities, that kind of thing. Ernie first was running for governor in 2014. He started his campaign, if I'm not mistaken, in late 2012, seriously, announcing early that he was going to be a Democratic nominee for governor, or candidate for governor, trying to get that nomination. Well, a lot of people say, well, Ernie, you're so good on the numbers, and it looks like Gina Raimondo, the now treasurer, is going to run for governor. Why don't you run for treasurer? He's like, oh, no, I want to be the governor, I want to be the governor. Well, eventually it got to him, and he went, I think I'll run for treasurer. So we rearranged the deck, and he ran for treasurer. Now, staunch Democrat that he is, he pulled out of the Democratic primary and decided that he's going to run as an independent. Now, strategically, that may be a better move for him because I think he was going to get thumped based on polling data out there by Frank Caprio and Seth Magaziner. Magaziner, a lesser-known name, but he's got the Clintons coming in for him, I'm sure. And Frank Caprio, who used to be the treasurer, ran for governor, got thumped, and is running for treasurer again. Ernie may be able to develop some clout and some time to build a reputation for his race come the general election as an independent. But for one who's a staunch Democrat and believes in the Democratic principles, philosophies, party loyalty, and all that kind of thing, it doesn't bode well. It's hard to follow Ernie. So we'll get him back in here. And is he coming in next week, Jess? Isn't he sort of? Well, next Wednesday he'll be in, and we'll ask him the hard questions. Alrighty. At least that's a little bit exciting because, you know, this is what's taking the air out of the balloon, oxygen out of the room, all that kind of thing. There's the mayoral race. You know, I talked to you about this last night a little bit. I just wanted to just have you follow the bouncing ball on Buddy Cianci's thinking here. You know, I asked the radio audience today, I'm looking for my notes here. Hold on a second here. I asked my radio audience today if they felt, first of all, this notion that he didn't know if he was going to run or not, it's a farce. I don't care what he tells you. Of course, it's an inarguable situation because he's going to say what he wants to say. But I think it's just kind of funny. I asked people, all right, even if you believe he went all the way down to like the last 30 seconds of his deadline on the air to tell you whether he was running, do you want that kind of decision-making in the mayoralty? Most people didn't buy that he was telling the truth about not knowing, and a goodly portion of those folks don't seem to really care too much. Here was the evidence from his radio show yesterday while the monitors were running and, you know, what he was going to do.
Tell me what you think I ought to do. And I'm not playing any games here because I'll tell you what I did do. I signed nomination papers or papers today. There is someone at City Hall who is ready to file them if I decide to run. I haven't decided to run yet. I've got a clear indication of whether I want to run, and I also have a clear indication of I've got an announcement speech that I wrote. And that's all prepared. Everything's prepared. Question is, do I want to make that decision? Do I want to make that lifestyle change? And the question is, how badly do you want to change the lifestyle that you have? I have a pretty good lifestyle now. I enjoy my grandchildren quite a bit. I enjoy my friends. I enjoy the things that I haven't been able to enjoy when I was mayor before. But, you know, I do have an obligation to a city that I gave 22 years of my life to.
Did you follow all that? And then the Holy Spirit came down. Buddy, run, buddy.
All right, now it's the time I want to tell you what I'm going to do, okay? Today I wish to share with you my personal plans for future public service. There are some of you who may say that this is an 11th hour decision, but I assure you it was not made rashly or in haste. Rather, it has been conceived with much soul-searching and reflection. Today, it is delivered after weighing such issues as my health, personal finances, because I must yield to my own conscience and to the urging of a host of fellow citizens that I return to public office.
Did you follow that? You know, it took a long time to come to this decision, as evidenced by the 6-page report or a speech in my right pocket that said, run, buddy, versus the 6-page speech over here that said, you wish you could have me, but I can't. Anyway, you know what? After today and tomorrow, most people won't care, but some will remember that this was a lot of hype, and a lot of manipulation, and a lot of free attention getting via the broadcast. And the only people that are hurt by that, I guess, are his competitors who feel like they're persona non grata. And here are the competitors, ladies and gentlemen. The Providence mayoral race, Democrats, these first two guys, I wouldn't know them if I walked into them. The established, of course, sort of candidates, Jorge Elorza, Brett Smiley, Michael Solomon, and, of course, perennial candidate Chris Young. Dems all the Democrats. The Republican Dan Harrop is kind of also a perennial guy putting his hat in the ring. And then here are the people that are going to earn Buddy Cianci the mayoralty. Lauren Adrian, who moved from Democrat to Independent, dumbest move I've seen this week. And then Jeffrey Lemire, who I don't know either. And if I didn't have, you know, let me tell you something. If Jeffrey Lemire doesn't know Buddy Cianci, he will. But the more people that are in the race, the better the chance for Buddy Cianci to win, because there's a Buddy candidacy and an anti-Buddy candidacy. And so the more people in, I said run as a Democrat so you got more competition. And it seems to me as a general election independent candidate, he's going to have the competition anyway. So it's all good for him. All right, let me go to these next couple of items and go real quick because we've got important stuff to do here tonight. I just want to note, by the way, that the Supreme Judicial Court, here's the headline in the Boston Globe, allows the folks who don't want casinos to put their question up. You know, they have initiated a petition in Massachusetts, which means the people can bring a question to the people if enough people say, I want to bring the question to the people. And the Supreme Court overruled the Attorney General and said, you can bring that question to the people, which is, let's not do casinos. Okay. Meanwhile, the shovels in the ground at Plain Ridge, that's Newport you're looking at there right now. That's Fall River that proposes in Massachusetts. And that one, I don't know what that is. That's Fall River too. And here's just blackjack. But the bottom line here is that Springfield is up and about to run. Plainfield's got shovels in the ground. And we could very well have the people of Massachusetts say, oh, never mind, while all these investments have been made. You want to talk about a legal political entanglement, the likes of which we've never seen before? Stay tuned. That's the election day drama so far in Massachusetts. Kneecap backdoor move. This is from last week while I was kind of away vacation-wise. I just wanted to say, if I was Deb Gist, I'd probably tell you guys to take your education reform and shove it. After the General Assembly upended, here's the headline here, high-stakes debate, the General Assembly, through the leadership of Nick Mattiello, said, you know what? Even though we've had a 7-year program to get to high-stakes testing, and the kneecap is part of the graduation requirement, in the last minute here, in the middle of June and at the end of the school year, we're going to say, never mind, based on a warm story that Nick Mattiello learned about when a slightly disabled girl fell 1 point short. It's just ridiculous what they did at the General Assembly. And Deb Gist, the Ed Commissioner, will be my guest next Thursday here on Dan York's State of Mind. And one of the questions I will ask is, you sticking around? Because you know what? I don't think I would. What else did I want to mention real quick before we're all done? Spell check, funny moment for Link Chafee. He was down there kicking off the cliff walk, and they put a nice little statue together. And unfortunately for the governor, they misspelled his name. To his credit, and I don't give him a lot of credit a lot of time, he laughed it off. You know, there was a donation for the statue anyway and for the plaque, and so it's no big deal to take out the F. Oh, you didn't know it was only one F? It's only one F. He laughed it off and was fairly humble about the whole thing. The good side of Link Chafee. Good for him. And it's supposedly a mud bowl, but I guess somehow, maybe I'll understand that better by tomorrow. I'm out of time right now. HIV testing day tomorrow. Stay tuned. So the other day I was reading the paper, which, you know, I got to do, like you should do, and I do. And I saw the story about HIV testing day, and I'm thinking, HIV testing day, well, isn't that interesting? HIV, that's still around? You know, I'm being facetious, but I mean, that's kind of the way the public looks at it all too often, which is probably pretty dangerous. But there was a quote by the new executive director 3 years into this wonderful organization. He says the following: most people who come in for testing are seeking the peace of mind a negative test result provides. I've witnessed mixed reactions receiving a negative HIV test result. Huge signs of relief, silent reflection, and tears of joy. You know, Tom, I think that it just grabbed me. That quote just grabbed me. I thought it was really profound.
Yeah, it's a very powerful experience. I'm one of the HIV test counselors at AIDS Project Rhode Island, as well as the executive director. So I've tested about 250 or 300 people in the past couple of years. People are coming in to find out their status, and it takes some bravery and some courage, quite frankly, because they're stepping up and trying to find out what could their future be. And if they're positive, they're going to go on one path. If they're negative, it's another path. But finding that out, often people wait a long time, worry about it. A lot of people too are very concerned about, did I maybe give it to somebody else? And then once they find that result, especially if it's negative, I see this huge
Are these
sigh of
mostly
relief.
gay people, gay men?
Oh, it's a real mix. So we see people as young as 13, as old as 60 or 70 who come in and get tested. The recommendations are that everyone should get tested at least once in their lifetime. And if you're sexually active, you should get tested at least once a year, or if you use injecting drugs, at least once a year. So we're always trying to push that message. The important piece, though, if you come in, you get tested, you can get into care, take medication, and reduce your viral load, and you can lead a long life.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to expose myself here, but what I was saying, I think I said it on the radio, maybe I said it here, but I'll say it again. I get what you were saying.
Sure.
Because I remember giving blood back when I was 20, long time ago.
Sure.
But it was in the midst of the burgeoning HIV crisis that this is the 80s now, where it was coming on, right? It was in like a freight train.
Yes.
And there would have been no reason on a homosexual level to worry about HIV or anything like that. But what was becoming popular and important for people to understand is that any kind of sexual activity could have, and we all were kind of going, you know what, maybe this isn't just a gay thing. And when you were confronted with having to take the test, or because you can't give blood without, it was happening that I'm sure it happens now too, that you're tested for HIV in order to have your blood accepted as a donor, right?
Yes, they do screen the blood.
Right, so you get a message that you're going to get, and for that couple of days, it may not have dominated my thought process, but it was kind of like, okay, that's good, and I think I can be honest enough back, younger guy, whatever.
Sure.
So I get that it is kind of hard to step up.
Yes.
And I would imagine that there's all sorts of, things that people are dealing with. What's the word I'm looking for? Just in terms of
emotionally, stigma.
Right, the
lots
stigma.
Of issues.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
So talk to me about that for a second.
Yeah. So having HIV today means a number of things for people. First, in terms of medication and care, you want to get into care and take your medication. But beyond that, here are the big issues. Do you tell your partners? Did you possibly step out of your relationship? Quite frankly, there are those issues too. Right. And then going forward in terms of intimacy, what does this mean? And then we still are suffering from some of the stigma from the past, where people were discriminated against in employment or in housing, and those other issues. And so then, who do I tell this information to, and how will they handle it? So all those things go through people's heads. It's much different than being told you have diabetes. People don't freak out about that. Told you have HIV, there are lots of issues you have to consider, personally and physically.
And of course, way in the early part, it was dun-dun-dun-dun, you're dead. Not necessarily now. When we come back, you need to know about the free testing day, in case anybody out there is going, you know what, maybe I really should take a look, and the benefits of doing so. Stay with us. Yeah, it turns out that Tom and I are just Long Island guys anyway. You've been the executive director of AIDS Project Rhode Island for 3 years?
3 years now, yes.
HIV, AIDS, what's the reality right now?
The reality is that there are 400 people in Rhode Island who probably have HIV and don't know their status.
400?
400. That's the estimate from the health department. So our goal is to get as many people tested as possible.
Predominantly through sexual activity or
mostly
needles?
Through sexual, yeah. In terms of, there have been some big successes with HIV in Rhode Island. The number of babies being born with HIV is almost zero. The number of individuals who use injecting drugs has dropped tremendously. So it's mostly
because of needle exchange?
Needle exchange programs have been terrific.
But it's so funny. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you that I used to argue against needle exchange programs all the time.
Yeah.
I just thought it was I really was kind of high and mighty about it. And then it just dawned on me one day, look, you know what? Philosophies aside, let's just stop this thing from spreading the way it did. And so, it was an interesting time too. I mean, it's been a couple of three-decade AIDS storyline here, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But 400 folks are out there and don't have it. I don't know they have it.
Yes.
And could be spreading it. So if the 400 don't get treated, what's the projection on how many more you get?
I don't have that extrapolation, but where we want to go, and Dr. Fine at the health department wants us to get to 0 new cases in the next 5 years. And so that's the message we're putting out there. So if you get tested and you're positive, get you on medication, take care of yourself, and you can reduce the spread. So that's the projection for us, is to get to 0.
Today, an HIV positive test and an AIDS diagnosis, which may not be exactly the same thing.
Correct.
Mean what for you?
Okay.
Early on, it meant bye-bye.
It certainly did. So I'm glad you asked that question. If you do have HIV, you want to know much sooner than later, because you could then progress to AIDS, which means you have certain medical conditions that could put you at risk for death. So if you're HIV positive, you get on your medication, and it reduces the chances that you'll progress to what's called AIDS, and that means you have some serious health problems. So if you're HIV positive, you'll be that for life, but we want to prevent you from developing AIDS.
No longer the death sentence.
No longer the death sentence at all, actually. If you take your medication, it's 1 pill a day with very few side effects. And I think you and I most remember handfuls of
there was a whole bunch of
medication in the
cocktails,
90s.
Right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Now
it's 1 pill, and the pill has 3 medications in it. and very few side effects, and you follow your doctor's orders.
All right, good for you guys.
That's
Here's the information on the day tomorrow. So it's free testing from 9 to 5 on 9 Pleasant Street in Providence. Google it. Is it next to something? Where is it?
Yeah,
next to,
it's
right?
off of North Main Street,
Okay.
1 block north of Whole Foods.
Okay, there you go. Everybody knows where the Whole Foods is. So that's an easy place to get to, easy access off the highway, all that kind of thing. If you need more information, just remember AgeProjectRI.org. But again, this is a one-day episode tomorrow. So
It is
get
all
in there.
day tomorrow. If you can't make it tomorrow, you can come the following week, make appointments, and we have open hours every week. So
right.
it's important to know it's an anonymous test, so you don't even have to give your name, and it only takes 20 minutes to get your results, and there's no blood involved. So
when if you get a positive, what do you do?
when you're positive, then I refer you to the Miriam Hospital. They'll do a test there, and at that point, you talk about confidentiality.
But because it's no longer a death sentence, you should, if you're one of the 400, let's find out if you're one of the 400, right?
Absolutely,
Simple
yes.
as that.
Yep.
All right, man. Listen, we'll talk more about it and have you back. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, when we come back, your state of mind. Don't go anywhere. Your state of mind is important to moi. So let me tell you how you offer it. You call me, 228-1886, and leave a voicemail. You email me at that address, or you tweet or Facebook post at me, and you leave the E in there, so you spell it right, unlike Governor Chafee. And we get to see what you say. Here's what somebody said, what they say. Ray said, the poor man just can't help it. He's a born liar even before he announced he's running. Can you imagine the whoppers we're going to hear during the campaign? That, I guess, is about Vincent Buddy Cianci, who announced yesterday that, lo and behold, it came to him in a whim that he should run, and then he pulled out a 6-page prepared speech to prove it. Anyway, I've had my fun with that, and we'll handle the issues as we go, and there'll be plenty in this election season. The Boy Scouts celebrate an anniversary tomorrow and more. See you then on Dan York State of Mind. Good night.